It's thinking about it. Bring that memory hog down. We are live from the Gator's Garage. Well, welcome and hello, y'all. It's been a little bit since the Gator came out and talked to you. He's been busy. We thought we would continue our bolt action discussion this week. I have with us Mr. Randy Yan, who's a good. Hey, say hi to the folks, Randy.
Hello, everybody.
There we go. Randy plays is a pretty competitive tournament player, and he's been running the infamous Gurkha list, like many British players do. And there are rumors, discussions, assumptions that the Gurkhas will probably be nerfed, maybe turned down a little bit as far as how useful they are going into version 3. So Randy took it upon himself as a challenge to build a non-Gurkha list. And so we thought we would talk about that today and look at a few of Randy's figures and maybe kind of just pontificate on what we hope to see in version 3 and what we might be glad to see leaving version 2. So, first of all, Randy, just real quick, how many tournaments have you played in now for Bolt Action?
It's hard to count.
Well,
I mean, I usually try to get one every couple months at least. Um,
yeah.
so I'm actually going to one in Columbus on the 11th of August before I go to NashCon.
And that's Columbus, Georgia.
Yep.
And then, yep. And then you're going to the one in Nashcon as well.
Yeah,
Uh,
that the one in Columbus is Moxie's games, and most of those guys are servicemen that are stationed at the base there, and they run
okay.
a bunch of bolt action over there.
Cool beans. Well, very good. Well, wishing you the best of luck. Are you going to take this list with you, you think, and give it a test drive?
No, because they have a really strange format. It's because of their time constraints. They limit it to 12 dice and
Okay.
1,250 points. So I'm going extreme Gurkha and some heavy hitters too. A lot of veteran stuff. Unfortunately, with British, we don't have a lot of anti-tank, and there's like
No.
KV2s all over the place in this and these guys' armies. There's like 3 or 4 guys that play Russians, and I think I played 3 Russians the last time I went there. Every
Wow.
one was
Hey,
Russian.
can you turn your camera a little bit to your left, please? You're kind of off center.
Let's see, like
There
so.
we go. That's
There,
much better.
yeah,
There we go. You were
yeah,
like the man in the shadow. Am I really
yeah.
here? I
My
don't know.
so unfortunately, the way where my camera's sitting, I'm having to kind of twist. Hopefully, I'll get this set up a little bit better. Where, uh, yeah. So if I put the
Oh,
camera
okay.
in another spot, if it was on the monitor, actually, if I could have my monitor underneath the camera and move my CPU down under the table, that's probably what I'm going to have to do, and that'll fix
Yeah.
all the problems I've got.
I'm using the one embedded in my laptop, but I've got another one that's kind of a mobile one. I thought about trying to set them both up, but I don't know that I'm ready to be quite that bold and daring yet. But back to the British discussion here. You touched on something real interesting, and I had the same problem. I ran a British motor rifle company at the last Flames of War game I played, which meant I had count it, one Payat. Meanwhile, Jerry's over here with Panzer Shrek, Panzer Faust, actually, it wasn't even Jerry. It was Hungarians, but
Yeah,
they
a
still had a
lot of
butt ton of infantry AT.
even the
I
Russians
squeezed a
can
win
take the
out, but
Panzerfaust.
I squeezed a win out, but that was only because I had lots of Daka Daka to keep him off the objective. But yeah,
Yeah,
those the British of all the Allied forces, I think the British suffer the most from personal infantry anti tank. There's just not a lot there. I think
no,
some of the American lists will let you get a couple of bazookas,
yeah.
but
Even
yeah, the
their even
British
their
is
their tanks are terrible anti armor. It's yeah. The Stuart's
Well,
their
the
best tank,
Cromwell is solid, but it's a late war tank, and the Firefly is solid as far as anti tank,
but we're
and the
still
Sherman's not
yeah.
bad.
The Firefly,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the only one that with any real punch. The rest of them are all even the Churchill's got a medium anti tank gun.
Yep.
It's a 10
Yeah.
armor tank, but it's got a medium anti tank gun and it's slow.
Right.
So good
Yeah.
luck flanking any other tanks.
Yeah. No. So you're going to plow ahead, which is what it was designed for. All that being said, Yeah, so the Firefly is good. Like I say, if you've not looked at the Cromwell, I think that's also got the same super heavy anti-tank gun. Somebody will correct me, I'm sure, if I've got that wrong, but there was one of the two. It was either the Cromwell or the Chieftain. I think it was the Cromwell that had the 17-pounder as well.
Hmm.
So those two are good, but you're right. To your point, all the rest of the British tanks are medium and mediocre, hence armor and anti-tank guns. But like the Americans, they had lots of them, and Germany didn't have quite so many. So there you go. So you're going to have a Piat in your force, I would assume, at least one a Piat, right?
Yes, I believe there is a Piat in there and a flamethrower, I believe, in that list.
You love flamethrowers. I think
We'll
it's
take a
because
look
you're a
at it
Southern
here in a
boy and you
minute.
like your barbecue. What's
Yeah,
that?
I said we'll take a look at the list here in a little while, but yeah.
Sounds good. Yeah. So you're
So
you're Southern you're a Southern boy and you like your barbecue. I hear
yeah,
you.
that's right. But yeah, see we don't know exactly what's going to happen with the Gurkhas, but we do know something with the Gurkhas and the Stuarts too. The word is that the machine gun effect from the Stuarts and other Dakka tanks is going to be nerfed. The Gurkhas, they're either going to raise the cost, which wouldn't be too bad really, or they're going to make them like tough gut Gurkhas, which means they're going to be worthless. You might as well play anything else.
Oh my gosh. What's the difference?
Yeah. No, so
What's the difference between tough gut?
the Maori is
Huh?
actually a good option. The Maori, the formidable fighters,
Right.
they're pretty stout.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Okay.
honestly, I've got some in this list. I've got some commandos that actually did really well as far as an assault unit. So
Okay. And commandos well. Yeah, submachine guns and tough and hard to hit. Yeah, that'll work.
yeah,
So that's again kind of the broad outlines. If you're looking, if anybody is out there and they're looking at a British Army, that's some of your trade-offs to consider. Average armor, which bolt action is not an armor game; it's an infantry game. And as Randy touched on, right now your best point per uh, your most cost effective points right now are probably about any vehicle with machine guns on it or a light and maybe a medium tank, especially at a low point. You get up to higher points, it might be worth your time to take a Firefly or a Tiger or a Panther, but everybody we've seen is running pretty much light and medium tanks and getting the job done. So, Randy, let's talk about your list. What you got?
all right. Let me see.
You want to throw it up on the screen?
Let me add this list here.
Okay.
And
And this is kind of cool. I've seen some people discuss their lists on Reddit, a little bit on Facebook. Reddit is a lot easier to throw a JPEG up and kind of discuss it. You might throw this one up in the Pulaski's Guard group for discussion and analysis too, and maybe even the Florida Bolt Action and Warlord Games group.
let's see. All right. So I've got it down here at the bottom. I'm trying to get it.
See that? Let me see if I can help you. Let's see.
You see it down there?
Present. Slide. Nope, that's not it. Share screen.
To do with sharing screen. Let's see.
Yes, even share screen. So yeah, folks, we're learning to do this on the fly, and some of this you can only do when you're live. Oh, got it. Add to stage. Dar. There we go. And then what I'm going to do, because the folks really want to see your list, that's a little hard to see.
Yeah, it was a little fuzzy, and I don't know why, because it was crystal clear on my computer before I put it on here.
Right.
So
okay, yeah, I made mine full screen, and if you're watching, set to full screen, and you can pretty much read it. So let's start at the top there. What are you leading off with there?
yeah, okay. So most people will run just an inexperienced second lieutenant, as they call the tax, but I have a support headquarters unit because it allows me to take more than 3 guys. I can take actually up to 6, and you can almost make a squad out of it. So you're not wasting a dice. But the intent here is to have 4 guys that will get into my LVT, that we'll get into it farther down the list, and they actually are going to fire all the weapons. So, and they're also trained gunners, so they can actually recrew a gun if I needed to, but I don't have any artillery in this list, so that won't be.
Okay, that's
And
different.
they're
Okay,
regular. They're not inexperienced because I want them to be able to shoot. So, all right, and then
right.
we got the commandos. We got an 8-man squad of commandos here, and this is my assault unit. They all have submachine guns. They're tough fighters, and I'm going to be running them in a truck, and they're really good about jumping out of the truck close. They're not paying for movement, and they're going to just spray 16 shots, which is kind of like running a Stuart tank up on top of somebody and unloading them.
Right. Yeah.
Plus, then they can get into close combat with being tough fighters. There's 8 guys swinging, and every swing they get to swing again. So
every successful hit they get to roll again.
Yeah, so they can really rack up some. Especially, you don't want to pick on veteran infantry, but if you go against regulars or inexperienced, you're guaranteed you're gonna win that.
What's this behind enemy lines thing?
So if they outflank, they don't pay the -1 to outflanking. So you can bring them in off the corner of the board and sneak up on some artillery, or a headquarters unit hiding in the back lines.
Now, does that count if they're riding in the truck?
No, the truck nerfs that. So if you're going to outflank them, you pretty much, you could pay the -1 and just bring them in on the truck.
Right.
But I would just run them in on foot if you want.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, right. That seems like your trade-off. Either use the truck to run up behind your lines and get to the battle area and get debus, or to your point, come up about the middle of the board and make a run. Yeah, that makes sense.
Now, if you wanted to use the truck, what you could do is only bring 7 guys and throw an inexperienced lieutenant in the truck, and his bonus will cancel out the -1.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, hey, would you like to, while we're talking about your commandos, do you have a picture of them?
I have one commando here. Let's see, I don't know if we can get him up there. Focus.
And that's a Warlord Games commando?
Yeah, that is a Warlord Games commando.
Okay.
He's really fuzzy.
Yeah. Okay. Because Gator Games carries both the Warlord Commandos and the War Games Atlantic Commandos, which makes it for a good mix and match. So that's the Commandos that can sneak up behind you and do all kinds of trouble.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of them. So.
Oh boy!
Yeah, I've got 10 with submachine guns, and I got 10 with rifles, I think. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's go to cinema layout here.
Yep.
And there we go. All right.
So next.
So we're looking at the list again.
Yeah.
My friends, the Indians.
Yep. So I had a bunch of Indians for the free squad that you're allowed to take. So these aren't free. I had to pay for them. But I'm bringing a 7.
Now, where do you find the rules for a free squad? Because they're not in the core rule book.
No, they're not. They're actually a theater selector. All the Commonwealth national characteristics are theater selection. So you can't run them in a generic platoon.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that is probably where you get the perception of the British being nerfed. Honestly, if you buy right now, if you got the version 2 rule book and you play the version 2 rule book, you're going to be pretty balanced.
Yeah, it'll be fair. Yeah.
Right.
Theater selectors is where you really get off kilter.
Yeah, that is, and I think that's everybody's consensus, is that what makes the game not work as well for tournament play, and we'll come back to that discussion, is the fact, I'm going to go ahead and put us back on the screen for a minute while we're talking, is the fact that if a tournament allows theater selectors, and it's taken me a little while to even get my head around this as a TO, but if a tournament allows theater selectors, you're liable to have anything. Now, that's what we found out. But people build these armies. They build them with this theater in mind, and they play with these rules. They want to give them a go, and I respect that too. Now, I also rep for a game called Starfleet Battles, and what we did in Starfleet is you had your regular fleet list. Let's say you and I were going to play a game, Randy. You're the Romulans and I'm the Federation. We just build 100 points of ships. We build 100 points of ships and go at it. But we go to play in a tournament, and that Romulan ship or that Federation ship may be tweaked a little bit to make sure that they are as closely balanced as possible. And if I had it to do over, and I may do this even in the next tournament we run, I may run just core rulebook only.
Yeah.
Because that eliminates all that discussion and gets everybody back on a square footing. And if I will probably sitting here thinking about it, I probably need to get on the Bolt Action forums and say, coming out with the next edition, we need you need some tournament rules, and that's something Warlord's never given us. 40K, I think, has come out. GW has done some tournament rules for their 40K for Lord of the Rings. Like I say, Starfleet Battles does tournament rules. I'm trying to think of who else runs tournaments that would have specific rules. BattleTech, I think, does too, or at least the tournaments are always within a certain tech level. So one of the things that and Warlord can do. What's that?
They've kind of left it up to the TOs and Bolt Action
to
decide what they want.
Yeah, with no guidance. I mean, I've never seen a single piece of writing. From Warlord staff saying, okay, if you're going to run a Warlord tournament, here's what an official Warlord tournament should look like. That may be a good discussion point. Go ahead.
So there's, I think Warzone might have done it at one time, but here's what can happen with, you can allow any theater selector. The British have Northwest Europe SAS platoon, and they're allowed to outflank regardless of scenario. That's their selector rules. So if you play Sector's Mission, which doesn't allow outflanking, they can outflank, and they're going to roll all their army into your home sector and win the game. It's going to happen. Especially with SAS, they don't pay for outflanking, so they're going to come in. Veteran units coming in, 10 plus, they're all going to roll in. And game's over.
They're going to roll. Good point. And I think the first tournament or two that we ran, we kind of set a peg in the ground and said, core armies only. I know you did and I did. Core rule book only. And then the last two, we kind of opened the door on that. And I know at least one of our players is using, his theater selector army is a whole lot more powerful than his armies of army, which is just crazy. So, he has fun. He's very competitive with it, like it. But, is it balanced in tournament play? Statistics say maybe not. Yeah. So, that's one of the things that they're going to have to address one way or another. So going back to talk about the Indian troops.
Yeah.
Pull this back up here.
Okay.
So the Indians, now I've got Indians in my British force as well. And so tell us a bit about the Indians. What made you select them as part of your force? And
so
why do you like them?
What I was looking for was just another skirmish infantry unit here. And a 7-man unit is with rifles is the ideal skirmish unit, because mainly the 7-man allows you have to lose 4 guys before you have to take a morale check, which is pretty hard to do. Usually you might lose 3. So you can take a pretty good hit and still be in the game. And I could have taken just Commonwealth infantry, but I've got these Sikhs, and they're so cool looking that I went ahead and I said, well, that'll be my my skirmish unit. I'll just put them out there. So I got 7 of those, just 7 rifles. And they actually did their job pretty well the last game I played. So that's them. All right, so now we move down to the free forward observer, because it's free. Got to take it, right?
Free's always good, and that's you want to talk about something that probably, and that is, I think, in the core rule book, is that free observer.
Yeah, it is.
And that's just a pain. I did I did want to say, did you want to show a picture of your Sikh?
I do have a picture of the Sikh.
Let me see here.
I'm gonna
We
I'm gonna
shall
move my.
seek.
This might work better. I'm gonna move my camera down here to him. Ah, that looks a lot better. Now you can actually see him.
There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah. Nice. So you did yours with more of it. Well, of course, you're in British battle dress,
yeah.
and I couldn't let you be the only one showing off your Sikhs. I did Sikhs for North Africa, just because they're cool, and I mean, you can get Anglo-looking guys anytime. And I was like, you know what? Let me try this here. So,
There's Mr. Commando. He's got a little cigar in his mouth.
so here is, if I can find the camera here. There we go.
Yep.
So there is my Sikh, and he's done up for North Africa. And these, I tell you what, just an absolute joy to do. Dead easy. I'm sure yours was as well.
Yeah.
One of the things about British kit. And these are mine are made from the 8th Army. Where'd you get your Sikhs from? What box?
They're from the 8th Army. Yeah.
Okay. Because I noticed yours were wearing pants.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, what I didn't know when I painted these jokers is that that's actually their knees down there. I was thinking it was just like a coat over some trousers. And then I got to looking at some other models, and I realized that that's flesh down there, and they're wearing like some kind of a sock. So,
right.
But, I painted it. It looks like they're wearing pants, so I'm leaving it that way.
They do at a glance, and that's one of the things we always tell people is it's not often you're going to have that miniature right up an eyeball to look at it. If it looks good at about an arm's length away, yeah, you're ready to go play. And mine do. I'm happy with them. So and so are you. So that's great. So that's the Sikhs, which again, you almost can't have a British Army, especially if you're in North Africa or Asia, and not have Sikhs, because they're just too much fun.
Yeah.
We talked about that free observer, which again, it's what, a 6 for the artillery to land on target, right?
Yeah. So what the observer really it all does is put pins out, but what it's most useful for, and a lot of times I'll hold back on calling in a fire order because it makes your opponent scared to move into an area.
Sure.
And sometimes I'll even use it before there's even a unit on the table. If there's a road that I want to deny my opponent, I'll just plop it right down on the road, and then they'll go around it.
Got it.
Because they don't want to punch up underneath that template.
And I guess you're gambling. They're gambling that you're going to hit. You're gambling that you're going to miss, and get to re-roll it next time.
Well, yeah. So a delay is actually a pretty good result, because I've actually chased armies around the board with it. That I'll put it down and they'll move around it, and then it gets delayed. So then I'll move it 12 inches where they went, and then they'll keep moving away.
Oh my goodness! Wow! Wow! Yeah, because if it hits you, it's so nasty.
What it doesn't do is sometimes more effective than what it does do.
The threat, and that actually is a lot. People, we talk talk tactics. We can sometimes forget, just like in real life, the threat of a thing can be as effective as the thing, and maybe even more. That was as true in ancient combat as it was in World War II, as it is on your tabletop. I know I was playing. I was actually playing a young guy and teaching him, but he had the French Somna 35, which is not a bad tank at all. And I had my British armored car, or my German armored car out there, my PSW 222. So, my armored car couldn't do a lot to his tank, but his tank could wreck my armored car.
Yeah.
And I was able to use. It took him a bit to kind of realize that, so I was able to use my armored car to do some area denial. But man, once he started stalking that armored car, I either had to stand and trade shots with him. Thanks, I think I'll pass, or move. And so again, it was that threat that kept me in motion. So there you go.
Yeah,
that's something to just really keep in mind.
Another thing I was told by a veteran player was, when you're discussing your army with your opponent, you want to really talk up how scary the forward observer is. You want to kind of build up a little fear in them about it.
Psyops.
So yeah,
Well, the way you handle a forward observer is you send a light squad to hunt him down and bayonet his butt.
yeah. So you got to keep them out of snipers because snipers will go after them.
Oh yes, absolutely. And I
If
think
I
the
have
only
the
modifier a sniper will get is small team.
Yeah, if I have
If
the
that
points,
even.
I'll always bring an extra dude, so that he's at least sniper proof for one round.
Because they can either one can spot.
Yeah, yeah. So either one can do
That's
it.
interesting.
You will have to take a morale check, but you know.
Okay.
So, all right. So moving on to the mortar, heavy mortar. Normally the meta here is to bring a medium mortar because
Right.
medium mortar does just as much damage as you really need to. But with the lack of anti-tank I have in the list, a heavy mortar actually becomes an anti-tank weapon because it's +3. It's going in on the top, so that's another one. It can actually knock out a medium tank quite easily.
Yeah.
And it's only 15 points more. So you got an extra guy on the team, so if it starts taking fire, there's one more guy to for casualties.
But now, is it still man portable, or do you have to use a vehicle?
No. This is you can run this thing 12 inches.
You can run it 12, huh? Okay.
You just
I
can't
know
move the
some
fire.
weapons. I know some weapons when we've looked at it, that it's you move at 6, but it counts as a run if you move it.
Yeah. So anytime you move even a mortar team, it's a run.
Right.
You can go 12 inches,
Okay.
unlike artillery where you can only go 6.
Okay. That is handy.
Yeah.
So you can quickly relocate and then start causing trouble again. All right, that's cool.
So I will deploy it. So I got a spotter. So I will deploy it in a in an area where, say, my spotter gets sniped. I can make a 112-inch move and get into line of sight, and then I want it to be in blocking, so it can't be shot at. But then I want it to also be able to move out and start firing if I lose my spotter.
Yeah, I see you've got that spotter too. So
Yeah.
again, that's 2 spotters on the board that can draw down indirect artillery on you.
Yep.
So, and it's kind of interesting because in most of our games at this scale, you don't always see artillery. You certainly don't see a lot of you rarely see off board. But if you read the history, I want to say in World War II, definitely in modern warfare, most of your casualties are being caused by artillery. So it would be boring as heck to be under, the amount of artillery that could actually be called in. The reality is, your OBA wouldn't just be one round. It would be 2 or 3 fire missions, from a battery. And trust me, I've on the tabletop, I've been on the receiving end of that. It's bad business.
Yeah. So I've actually got another mortar in this list too. So
that's just wrong. Okay, I see the one. All right, we'll keep rolling here. Right. Boys anti-tank rifle. So why that instead of a Piat?
So I've come to like this pretty well since it actually won me a game here recently.
Okay.
But it's a pin machine. So that's the main reason I bring it. I have a couple flamethrowers in my list, and I want to throw a pin on a tank. Even if it can't destroy it, it has a pin penetration. It can still put a pin marker on it. And then when the flamethrower hits it and you get 3-4 more pins, and it has to make a morale check, it makes it that much harder for it to pass, and it can help me knock out the tank.
Okay.
And of course,
if it do what?
It's good for armored cars. It'll knock an armored car out in a heartbeat.
Oh gosh, yes. Yeah. Absolutely. I know. I've got the ATR that came with my Gentleman's War set, and I'm like you. I've come to like that thing. It's good against infantry. It's good against armored cars.
It's cheap.
It's cheap. It's a 2-man team, so it's hard to hit.
Yeah,
it's got good range.
And I bring it veteran too, so it makes it really hard to kill.
Right. I do that with most of my small teams like that. I'm going to make them veteran, make them harder to kill.
Yeah,
makes all kinds of sense. I like that.
Yeah. So now moving to the armored car slot in the first platoon, we have a airborne recce jeep because it's just so good. 45 points. It's cheaper than a medium machine gun team, and it has 10 shots, and it can move and fire. It's got recce. I mean, that's got to be like the best bargain in bolt action right there.
See, and a sniper's not going to knock that machine gun out. He can put pins on it.
Yeah, I mean, he could kill it, but you got to hit it,
Right.
then you got to roll a 6, then you got to roll a 4. So there's a lot of things got to happen for a sniper to take it out.
Soft skin, yeah.
Yeah.
And this, see, now this is really emblematic of the dichotomy between the fixed medium machine gun and then vehicle mounted MGs.
Yeah.
Again, point for point, your vehicle mounted MGs are just the cheapest things going. And it's the same in Flames of War. Vehicle mounted machine guns are just they're the whiz bang.
Yeah.
I don't know what the easy answer is. Now we're looking here at what, 2 light machine guns?
No, they're medium.
No, 2 mediums. Wow.
Yeah.
And I think and I think a fixed medium, and this is regular. I think a single fixed medium team is like 45. No, it's 60 points, isn't it?
It's 50. It's
50? Okay.
Yeah, and it can't
But
move and
man,
fire. It cannot move and fire. So this thing
right.
and not only move and fire, it can go 12 inches and fire. So
Jeez.
it's not like it can only go 6 and fire. It
Right.
can go 12.
Downside is for what it's worth, it's vulnerable to anti-tank. It's vulnerable to the infamous ATR. And it can't really get in cover. You can't put it in the woods. Wheeled vehicles can't move through woods.
Yeah.
So it can't draw cover. But
you have to be real cagey with it.
Yep.
But
got that recon rule. So
my favorite use of this Jeep is to go after mortars and artillery units. Because usually you can get to them. The infantry is busy coming in from a different direction, and a lot of times you can run right up in there and it'll kill a artillery unit in a heartbeat. 10 shots, and they're usually not in cover, so you're hitting on 4s probably. You're going to get 5 or 6 hits, and you're going to knock it out.
There goes that gun team. That's fantastic.
Yep.
Wow. All right, so your next item here is the infamous LVT-4 Buffalo.
Yeah, the thing that everybody says can't be used in bolt action. So Bo Mortensen taught me how to use this, and I've been gaining some experience with it, and I'm starting to like it a lot. And this is why I have the support unit, because I bring the LVT inexperienced to save 25 points, but I put the officer team inside to run the guns, and their bonus nullifies it being inexperienced.
So I'm looking at this here, and it says LVT Buffalo tracked 24 shots.
No, all right. So it transports. Actually, there's a FAQ on it. It transports 30 guys.
Right. Okay.
So you can put 30 men in it. It has a light autocannon, and it has 3 medium machine guns on it. So it's
and you can crew those with your headquarters because you bought the special support headquarters that can do that.
Well, any riders will do it, but I'm not using. So by using the headquarters unit, I'm not putting an infantry unit in there that I want on the table doing something else. Normally, your headquarters is just running around trying to stay alive, and I'm actually using my headquarters unit to do something. And actually, so I can do a free action. So what I'll do is I'll move the LVT up. Those guys will fire all the guns. Then they're still allowed to jump out 6 inches and shoot. And then the next turn, the first thing they do is get back in the LVT, and they can fire the guns again. Now, they don't get to fire every round, but every other round, it's like I get an extra action out of something that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to show us that sexy LVT?
Yeah.
Now, this is a resin trim model, isn't it?
This is. It's heavy. It's really a nice model.
That is good.
I had a lot of fun painting this one. I'm gonna do
Yeah.
some. You can see the water stains. I'm gonna. I've seen a lot where they have like marsh grass dripping down from the tracks. So I've got
Right.
some of that. I'm gonna add that to it. And yeah, so you can see the autocannon. There's two. These are 360. The one in the front's only forward facing, so you just
Right.
have to be a little careful about where it's aimed at. But
So the MGs on the side are 360.
360, which is crazy that you can shoot over the guy shooting the Bofors gun.
Yeah, that's a little. Yeah, I think they ought to take a look at that. I mean, if you look at the mounting, they really ought to be left side, right side,
Well, it's like the Char
180.
2C. If you ever looked at the Char 2C and some of the other tanks that have arcs of fire that just don't make sense, but
Right.
it's in the rules, so that's the way they play it.
That's how you play it. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's again. I hope they're gonna take 2 steps back and kind of dial some of this in. I mean, you play bolt action because you want something that's kind of beer and pretzels,
Yeah.
but you also want it. You want some consistency and you want it to make an amount of sense.
Yeah.
And I think I've seen this thing on the table, and you do like the rest of us. Once you get a base coat, you'll play with it. I just finished putting the base coat on my British Armored car from Gentleman's War, so now all my components for Gentleman's War are finally painted, at least with a base coat. I put the Panzer yellow on my PS 222, so it's done. Now it's just a matter of finishing them off. So LVT, a good solid armored unit. Good now that's a transport when the crew comes out, so it's subject to capture just like a half track.
Yeah, but you got guys in it, so it can't be captured, although it can be assaulted. Typically, you want to keep this thing on the back line and just shoot out and just spray out.
Yeah,
pin mark. It's like so I can split fire 4 times, 4 ways.
Right.
So I can actually throw 4 pins out each round.
Sure.
Which
sure.
is huge.
And that's something else about armored vehicles is they can shoot all their weapons in all the different directions, which, while we're being critical of Bolt Action version 2, your rifle squad can't do that. Now, at a bare minimum, I would think a rifle squad ought to be able to fire its rifles in one direction and its machine gun in another. Be able to split fire and cover multiple areas of fire. I've seen that done in other games like, I don't know, Squad Leader.
Well, I mean, they allow somebody to shoot a Panzerfaust at a different target. Why can't a crew serve machine gun team do the same thing?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it just makes sense. But what it would do, I guess, from a pin perspective, if you can engage multiple targets, you could have one squad potentially pinning multiple squads.
Yeah.
Which happened in real life. So but that's all right.
So
what's the next thing on our list?
This LVT is, since it can hold 30 guys, I can put 5 or 6 units inside of it, and in a game like Sectors, I can push this thing all the way into the sector and dump everybody out, and I've just scored 5 units, whereas before they'd have to foot slog and probably get shot up on the way over there.
Well, of course, now it's open top, so who's taking the pins?
It is a pin magnet. Crew, everybody takes a pin.
Yeah, everybody in there takes a pin.
Everybody in there takes a pin.
Yeah, so that's the one downside.
Yeah,
and to your point, it's going to be a pin magnet. Magnet, easy to hit. Yeah,
you want to keep it out. Ideally, you want to keep it out of rifle range of anything
till you're ready to make your move.
Yep.
And its movement's 918, right?
Yep.
Yep. So make that
run. You're probably going to hold off till about turn 3 and then just start running with everybody in it.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Let's pull this list up here. As always, folks, this is Gator's Garage. If you have a topic you would like to see us cover, please make a note of it in the comment section below. Do all the YouTube things, like, subscribe, share, help us grow the channel. We've got to be at least 50 subscribers before we can go live. And I would like to get to where we go live on YouTube and do some live broadcasts at some of our events. Also, this podcast is sponsored by Gator Games and Books. your local and online game store out of Savannah, Georgia. And we would encourage you, if you want to support the channel, go to Gator Games and buy some merchandise. So let's talk about this Wasp, Randy.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite units in this list. I've only run it a few times, but I really like it. So it's a flamethrower, vehicle flamethrower. It's got 12-inch. Um, it's open top, so it's not something you want to just run up there. It can be assaulted. The best thing you can do with it is sit behind a group of woods, so it can't be seen or shot at, and then it can advance through the woods and come out and shoot its flamethrower 12 inches. Um, it also has a Pintle light machine gun, so even if the flamethrower runs out, it's not just a 110 point paperweight. It can still shoot and do something.
Interesting.
Yeah. Plus, it can, when it's out of range of other things of the flamethrower, it can still fire and throw out a pin.
That's pretty flexible.
Yeah.
So what's that flammable do for somebody shooting at it?
All right. So if it takes if you roll on the damage chart, I think you add 1 to your roll.
Ooh.
So it increases the odds of it getting knocked out.
Barbecues. Yeah. What was that whole the barbecue special?
Yeah, and I want to say there's so if the okay, I may be wrong on that. So I think it is if the result is a fire on fire, you add D3 pin markers before you take your morale check to put out the fire. I think that's what it is.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so if you get a fire result, it can be really bad.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And that's how I lost. That's how I lost that game to you. Couldn't put the darn fire out. My guys bailed out of the card. Randy won the game.
That was that anti-tank rifle doing some heroic work there.
It was that bloody anti-tank rifle. Yes, it was. I love it. All right. So that's page 1.
Let's take a look at this model real quick.
Sure, absolutely.
This is a really cool looking model. So there he is.
It really is. And again, that's a resin as well?
That is resin, yep. And I had to make the flame. It didn't come with any guys in it, so I had to get creative about putting guys inside of it.
Nicely done. Yeah, a lot of the resin models, I know I carry resin models in my store. Most of them, most of them do not come with figures. So you're going to have to get creative, but resin models are usually a lot less expensive.
I think that's the only way you can get a Wasp. I don't think they make a model for it. So,
yeah, I've got one in stock. I just haven't loaded it to the store yet. So if you want a Wasp, send me an email. All right. Well, that's very cool, man. I remember I told you I got a Wasp. You were like, yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Like, okay, then.
Slides.
Let's see.
Okay.
Platoon number 2. So again, we're looking at a 1,200 point list here, which everybody knows if you're watching, if you're building right, you can easily squeeze 2 platoons into 1,200 points, or even to 1,000 points. And what that then allows you to do is take a higher concentration of special weapons, because your special weapons are by platoon. So tell us about this second platoon, Randy.
It allows you to double up on some of the good stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So here we got your standard inexperienced second lieutenant. He'll just stay out of the way and possibly run around and give some morale if like an artillery unit gets pinned down or something, and I'll try to get him over there. But typically I just try to keep him from getting killed. So moving on to infantry here in this platoon, have a squad of Chindits, 7-man squad, ideal for skirmish. And I bring a light machine gun. Now, typically for tournament play, you don't bring machine guns because they're just not worth the 20 points. But with the Chindits, they get fire and maneuver with everything they carry, including a light machine gun, which turns it into a very effective weapon now. I can sit there and just play tag with other infantry, just kind of keep moving away, and just I can use the range of the light machine gun just to light them up, and they have to move to try to get closer to me, and I just keep moving and keep shooting them.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're facing off against anybody else that has LMGs, historically you're facing the Germans. They're going to get
Yep.
an extra die.
Yep.
If you're facing other British, if they're other Chindits, they'll be chasing you. If they're other British, of course, they may have their own special things going on. I hear you.
So
I like
actually,
light machine guns. I just about always take them. I always take them in my forces, and I
so
usually get pretty good use out of them.
yeah, so in the Germans, it's not too bad because you do get an extra dice. Um,
Right.
but having two guys, so basically you're tying up, you're really paying 40 points because you're paying 10 points per man plus the 20. So you got 40 points in 4 shots. So you could have 4 guys
Interesting.
shooting with the same amount of cost. And then you have bodies that can be killed, you can have more bodies in a squad to make it more survivable. But I've actually, with
Yeah.
this Chindits, I've gone up against a German LMG squad, and I lit them up. I mean, so when they move, they have to pay for movement, and I don't, and I can keep
Right.
them at long range, and I just kept whittling them away. They kept moving up, and I kept backing up, and I just kept shooting them, and eventually they just went away.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they also
So
have
yeah,
behind enemy lines, like
I see that.
the commandos. They can outflank, so you could bring them in and wreak havoc on artillery units behind the enemy lines.
Wow.
Yeah,
You got one of them. You got one of them Chindits all painted up.
yeah. I've got 2 guys here. I got this the NCO and the guy holding the light machine gun because it's so cool. Yeah,
Because everything's better with lots of lead.
that's right. So there's the. They kind of look like Gurkhas, but they're not.
Right.
They're
And I
not.
was looking here. Let me take the spotlight for a minute. Good looking guys as always, Randy.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's see. I guess let's see spotlight.
I wish it would focus.
There we go.
Uh,
Yeah.
it's catching.
We just
itself, letting it focus.
we just need to upgrade our equipment because we got nothing else to do, right?
Yeah. There we go. I wonder what that looks a little better.
And Randy, you might follow up and take pictures of these guys and post in the Pulaski's Guard group. That would be
Yeah.
really cool. So another way to make your Chindits, because yours are the metal kit, right?
Yep. Yeah, and I like them because they're
Yeah,
so
'cause
heavy. But yeah.
Yeah, a lot of guys like metal. You can also make the Chindits out of the British and Commonwealth infantry box, which we
Yeah,
do
I
have
see
in
that.
stock. You can also make SAS. There's 30 guys in here, so you can actually do a squad of Chindits and a squad of SAS and really ruin somebody's day. So that's really good. All right, back to the Army list. I hope
Yep.
folks are learning from this. And again, I think last time we did a bolt action thing, we had some really interesting comments, some contrary opinions, and that's fine. You know how it is: 2 gamers, 3 opinions.
Yep.
And sometimes, you think you got the rule right, and then you go back and research it. No, it's a little bit different. So let's pull this list back up here,
All right.
and let's talk about Home Guard. Really?
Yeah. So I'm trying out a little bit of everything with this force. So Home Guard is basically filling an infantry slot, but it's they're green. They're actually allowed to take a BAR, which I think is really cool. So I bring a full strength squad, 10 men. I've got let's see, 1 unarmed guy. Normally I'll run 2. The unarmed guys are basically for the casualties.
Oh my
Yeah.
God! Meat
So-
shields.
Yep, that's right. And then hopefully you get to roll for upgrade because they're green and they move up to regular. The last time I ran these guys, the guy shot at this squad like 7 different times and could not kill a guy. And so I never got to roll for upgrade. But
I can completely relate to that because What do you need? A 3+ to kill a green guy, right?
Yeah, he kept rolling twos. And I was like, man, come
Oh,
on, kill somebody. I want him to die. I
somebody,
got, I
somebody
got a
die,
two
please.
myself.
Oh my gosh!
But
Wow.
they
And
did their
and now
job,
you
though. They held an objective. And that's what these cheap infantry units are good for, is to put them on the back line or holding objectives. They
very
can be
cool,
shields for your artillery in case somebody outflanks. They can be
right?
a meat shield for your artillery, basically.
Yeah. Let me. Yeah. So this is another one of those kits, and I don't think you built this out of the Warlord kit or the War Games Atlantic kit, or did you? You were talking about it,
So they
but War
were,
Games Atlantic does a BEF kit, and yes, it has the BARs you see on the front. So to
yeah,
Randy's point, this kit here can be done as early British or even mid-war,
yep.
but you can definitely also do it as home guard. So again, kind of a nice option. And interestingly enough, the Warlord kits run about $10 less than or the War Games Atlantic kits run about $10 less, or 15 list price. They run about $15-$20 less than the Warlord kits, but you do have to buy bases separately. Of course, if you're somebody like me, you got bases sitting around from now till Kingdom Come. If not, we sell those too, and they're not too expensive. So, wanted
Yeah,
to kind of highlight those two kits that you can use to help build this list.
yeah. I actually had to use my regular British troops, Commonwealth infantry, for my home guard, but I'm going to be getting one of those BAF kits, and then a whole thing of bases. So I'll be able to use them for other troops as well.
I'll pull those aside for you for this weekend.
Yeah, yeah. I'm definitely going to be picking them up because
That'll work.
they
That'll work.
really, for the cost, I think I really got my value out of them this last game I played.
Right. That's excellent. All right, let's get your list back up here. And
All
that's
right.
the important thing. Tournament games, there's two styles of gaming in historical gaming. The predominant that you see, the companies like to see, and that a lot of us see, is tournament play. And there it's all about economy of force. What is the most effective for the amount of points you bring? The
Bang
other
for your
is
buck.
scenario play. What's
Yep.
that, Randy? Yeah.
Bang for your buck, basically.
Yeah. The other is scenario play, and me and Randy tends to be more the tournament guy, but we're both big scenario guys too. So we're not above at all, making it look a little bit more historical and knocking back some of the cheese or tweaking some of the stuff to make a more historical feeling scenario. Well, look at this. You got another mortar tube. Surprise, surprise.
Yep. So I got a medium mortar in the other slot. It is inexperienced, so it has to have line of sight, and it can be shot, but it's 35 points, and you put it out there at long range, and it can sit there and zero in on somebody's artillery unit or an infantry unit that wants to sit on an objective, or that sniper that wants to stay in the building. You can just sit there and just blink away until you knock him out.
Unless he picks off your team. Of course, 60 inches out is a pretty good range. Your
Oh yeah,
sniper's got a range of 36. He's going to have to move up a bit. And again, inexperienced for a mortar is not bad. You're vulnerable to casualties, but all mortars, all indirect artillery starts off with the same to hit,
yeah,
6.
yeah.
Uh, we didn't talk about that in relation to your home guard section. Their basic chance to hit is a 5 instead of a 4 because they get a +1 because they're green. So that's the other downside if they're engaging directly.
Yeah, yeah, and that's why you want them to upgrade. Is so
Yeah.
you can be shooting at normal, but typically you don't want them in the action where they're shooting. Although the BAR allows me to, I actually threw out a couple pins with that BAR because of its range. I was able to keep it out
Yes.
of other guys' rifle range and sit there and pin them.
How about that? Okay.
Yeah,
Cool. Okay, so the mortar team, more
yeah.
mortar love. So that gives you. I'm kind of keeping a tally here. That gives you 3 indirect fire options.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
your opponent can run, but he can't hide.
yeah.
Wow. Of course, if your dice go south, you're going to be cussing yourself because you're going to have 3 dice worth of targets that aren't doing anything.
Yeah,
So let's talk about
that does happen. Yeah.
yeah. I know it would happen with me, boy. There's a reason I don't take stuff that need a 6 to hit. Be like, yeah, I won't be hitting all day. Heck, I can't roll a 5 to get reserves in.
Yeah.
Um, so let's talk about the sniper team here.
Okay. So the sniper team is really basically to help shield my spotters and my mortar that has to sit out in the open. Um,
Yeah,
he's there to basically protect, make the other sniper think twice, and of course he'll be able to take out other guys' spotters and stuff too. But
right.
yeah,
If an infantry unit starts moving in on your artillery, he can pick off the sergeant, and then they're harder to lead, or he can pick off the heavy weapons guy, and then
yeah,
suddenly they don't have a light machine gun, and they've got to try and get even closer. So, yeah, snipers can be bad business.
and because they hit on threes, if you need to put a pin on a unit for any reason, that's an easy pin. So you just shoot
Yeah,
at them. You know, you don't really care if you kill somebody or not. You're putting a pin on them.
yeah, that's right. So your inexperienced infantry is going to hit on a 4 to start with.
Yeah,
I've been playing too much Flames of War here lately.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so 3, yeah, that's pretty nasty. And then of course everybody's favorite, the British Piat,
yeah.
except for
Yeah.
the British.
The P. I got other names for it, but anyway, it
Yeah,
is an anti-tank weapon. It's +5. You just got to get it close.
yeah.
So I've got a Jeep down here for the Piat team, so I can try to run it up and drop them out, and hopefully
There you
maybe
go.
get a side shot on a big tank.
Yeah. PI stands for Projector Infantry Anti-Tank for anybody who wants to know.
Yeah, it's really
Uh,
strange. It's actually a spring-loaded
yeah,
projectile, which is
yeah.
this is crazy to think of it that way. It's just a big spring.
Well, and what's kind of interesting, and I've read some anecdotes about this. What made the Piat better than any of the other infantry anti-tank weapons, in some respects, was that spring, because you could pop that round off, and there's no smoke trail back to you saying where you fired from. You
Yeah,
fire a Panzerfaust or a Shrek or a bazooka, well, damn, you got a smoke trail pointing right back to where you are.
you
And
also don't
it's
have a backblast either, so you don't have to worry
right,
about frying the guy behind you.
right. And none of that those are two significant advantages that would be hard to capture on the tabletop, but would be definitely interesting.
Yeah.
So, all right.
So in the armored car slot here, normally you'd
The
probably feel.
armadillo.
Yeah. So this is new, something I wanted to try out. It's another autocannon. It's a heavy autocannon with LMGs with 360 degrees of fire. So this is something that can split fire 3 ways.
You got a sample of that model?
I do. It is in desert, but I do have it. Let me grab it.
I'm just not
So
not seeing it.
it hasn't been finished. Um,
No.
all right, go ahead. So there it is.
Okay.
This is a Warlord model. It's resin and metal combination. So it's got a heavy autocannon. It's rear facing. So the trick of this thing is you have to move up 12 and you have to spin it around, make 2 turns. And now it's facing to where everything fires toward the enemy. Although you now have a 5 armor in the rear, so you don't want to take any anti-tank shots to the back because it'll
Right.
real quick.
Huh. That
Yeah.
thing looks a lot different than I thought it did. I know I had it in stock. For some reason I thought it was a different vehicle.
So this is a Bedford truck that they just threw a bunch of metal plates on and built a
Right.
metal box for it, and then they threw a heavy autocannon on the back. So this thing has 72-inch range, which is why you can just come on the table and spin it around, and then just start throwing out fire to the enemy.
Right.
It's real good
And
against armored
and
cars.
there again we have a couple of light machine guns. I'm assuming there's a light machine gun on either side.
Yeah, and this is another one of those deals. So these machine guns have a 360 arc of fire, but if you look at the model
Wow.
inside, no, it doesn't have. But the book says it has 360, so it has 360 degrees. I'm assuming
One
maybe these
180.
guys can peek out over the top and shoot this way, but then if you shoot backwards, you're shooting at the guys that are manning
Right.
the.
Yeah. Yeah. That's again one of those that I would say left and right, maybe at best. More left, right, left side, right side. Probably more like left and right with a very about a 45-degree angle of
Yeah.
fire out of that window.
Well, it does have a window
Oh,
in the
okay.
front, so basically you could peek it out. If I was going to rule how this model should fire, the guys could fire forward facing and side arcs, but not rearward.
Okay. I think
Yeah.
you're right. Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. Okay.
It's a really cool looking model.
Yeah.
I'll be glad
And
when I get it
it's
finished.
amazing, amazing how, all the different, the tanks get all the glory, but armed trucks were quite a thing and used by everybody. The
Yeah.
Russians, especially, boy, they were well known for having armed trucks and just pushing them right up in people's faces. So coming near the end here, you got a 15 centerweight truck.
Yep. So this is the transport for the commandos. It holds 8 guys. I've got 8 commandos,
Okay.
and its job is to get them close to so the submachine guns have range, and they can put out their hate.
Could also use them to bring one of your mortar teams on if you wanted to.
Yeah, yeah. So I used this in the last game pretty well. I ran it up to there was a sidecar motorcycle, and these guys jumped out and got behind a hedge and just lit the motorcycle up with 16 shots. And it was out in the open, so they're not paying for movement. They were under 6 inches, so they're hitting on twos. I mean, I think I got like 9 hits on it, and I got a couple sixes, and I knocked it out. And then the next turn they assaulted his inexperienced squad that was in the building next to it, and killed them pretty quick. So
Yeah, that was Vichy French you were fighting, right?
yeah, yeah. So he had a free
Wow.
squad of French, and he had to go 8-man, I think, because you can only take as big as the smallest unit. So you couldn't just take a full squad unless you had all of your inexperienced infantry full strength. So
Okay.
he had to cut it down. It wouldn't have mattered anyway if they'd have had.
They were going to die.
Die. Yeah.
Wow.
So.
Okay. And then there's the Jeep to carry your Piat team around with.
For the Piat, and
Yep.
Let's see, the last one, I have a Bofors truck in the tank slot.
Oh, there goes the neighborhood.
You notice there's no Stewart in this list, and that's because
true.
The Stewarts are probably going to get nerfed, and I wanted to see if I could live without them. And this thing did pretty well. It's a heavy autocannon with 360 degrees of fire. So I've got 3 autocannons in this list. So not only do I have the HE spam, I've got autocannon spam.
Right. Definitely very hazardous against enemy infantry. I think somebody with some good medium armor might give you some trouble, but they're going to lose points in other areas.
Yeah, so it's really good against any kind of armored car,
right?
Winds, and even even a heavy or medium tank. You're talking 2 shots at probably short range. So you're going to put a pin on them, and you can still knock out a medium tank with this thing. At short range, you can get 9. You get a superficial damage. You roll a fire. They can't put the fire out, and it's done.
Yeah, we've seen that happen.
And the other thing that people don't use autocannons for is hitting buildings, because the HE hits stack. So if you had a light autocannon with four guns, and you hit a building, that's 8 shots, and let's say you hit 6 times, so you're doing D2 pins or D2 hits 6 times. You can easily bring that building down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chew it up, which is what autocannons did.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Good list, Randy. Again, I think it's competitive. I've always said about these any of the point-based games that, and the best to me, the best rule of thumb is the point system works if you can take any list and be competitive. And this looks like a competitive list, without being overly cheesy.
So yeah, when I built this list, it was really just to try out a bunch of different units and see what I liked. But after I put it together, and I was like, this is not a bad list. It really works. And last weekend I played against a Vichy French list, and it handled them really well. But the funny thing is, we were talking about thematic. So every unit in this list was totally not thematic. You got Indians from the desert, you got Chindits from the jungle, you've got the home guard that was in England. They never went into Europe,
right?
France. They were home guard. And then let's see what else. So you've got the what is that? The armadillo that was out in the desert.
Right.
You got there was just so many things that were just none of them were together at any one point. So, but it was actually a more competitive list than I thought it would be.
Fantastic. All right. Well, folks, that is Randy Young's not Gurkha British list.
Yeah. Life without Gurkhas.
Life without Gurkhas. Just kind of taking a different approach. And honestly, that's not a bad thing to do with any army. If you're used to playing a certain way, change it up. And that's good for you. It's good for your opponents. Learn to handle your armies differently. And learn, like I run Germans, British, and Americans. And I'm bad about just setting an army list and okay, I'm done. Usually because I'm too busy, I don't have time to go make another one. But if you can dig through your army books or dig through your theater books and find something that's a little bit more spicy, a little bit different, and throw that on the table to change things up, it juices up your gameplay, whether you're playing a one-off or a tournament or a name scenario. And I would encourage you to do that. If you come up with some good ideas, post them to us. Either share it to the Pulaski Guard Facebook group or post it here in the thread underneath this conversation. And again, I want to go ahead, Randy.
So I would add to that. So if anybody out there has a list that they want us to evaluate and just kind of go over it and see what we think about it, send it to us, and we'll look it over and give our opinion. You can take it for what it's worth. Have fun with it, though. That's the main thing. Whatever list you bring, you got to have fun with it.
I will put the email for Pulaski's Guard in the comment section. Yeah. And if you want to have your list evaluated, you can send that to Pulaski's Guard. So that's a very good idea, Randy. I like it. Okay. Well, folks, this has been the Gators Garage for Wednesday already of the week. July 3rd. Just one pause. Go ahead, Randy.
This is my last. I'm done for the week, so I don't work Fridays, so I'm off tomorrow. So this is my Friday today.
Dude, that is fantastic. You got 4 days off. Yeah. I'm the exact opposite. We're in the middle of quarter close, and so I will be working right up to Friday. And the only reason I don't have to work Saturday is because I don't have nearly as much work to do. But it is what it is. We work to pay for our hobbies. Oh wait, yeah, and to feed the kids too. So, but it's July 3rd. Tomorrow's July 4th. Happy Independence Day to all the Yanks.
And guess what?
So sorry to all the Brits. What that?
Saturday? We got Saturday. Remember, Gettysburg.
We do have Saturday. Thank you for that reminder. So, just as a side note, Randy and I will be putting on basically the central part of the Battle of Gettysburg at a live church in Pooler, Georgia. I'll throw a description of that throw a link to that in the description below. We have room for at least 6 people. I think we've had as many as 10. So plenty of room for players. We're going to have some prize support. We're going to have some snacks. And the room is open. It's at a live church. If you don't feel like doing American Civil War, if you want to come play some bolt action, we'll have some spare tables. Might have to bring a partner with you, but the place will be open from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can play Civil War with us, or you can play something else. But it'll definitely be open. It's one of those services that we provide through Pulaski's Guard, Savannah Garrison, giving historical gamers priority and somewhere to play on a Friday and Saturday when we might not normally be able to get into some of the other venues. Thanks for that reminder, Randy.
Yep.
Any other comments before we wrap it up, brother?
I think that's it.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap the recording up, and if you'd hang out in the studio for a bit, we'll close out, and then we'll get on to well, I got to get on to bed. You're probably going to go paint some more models.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Randy.
All right.